Most of us don't break because life is too hard. We break because we've been carrying everything alone for too long. There's a moment, quiet, usually, where we realize we're exhausted, but we don't know how to stop. Not because we're weak, but because stopping feels like letting everyone down. And if you've ever felt that, welcome to the Forge.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
I'm Tyler Van Allen, licensed therapist, trauma-informed clinician, and someone who just believes that most of us aren't shaped by comfort, but by pressure, but pressure that's held correctly. Some of the most trying times in my life that has led to positive outcomes. Those positive outcomes were born in the most brutal and bitter ashes imaginable. This is a space for honest conversations. No performance, no hype, just work that helps us carry emotional weight without breaking. I want to start by being clear about what the Forge is and what it isn't. This isn't a self-help podcast. It's not motivational content where I'm somehow the expert of your life. I feel like there's enough of that in the internet today. So many people out there who sound like the expert of your lives, and somehow they know more about you than you do. And it's definitely not a place where we're pretending everything is fine if you just somehow think positive. The Forge exists because too many of us are walking around functional but fractured, doing what needs to be done day in and day out, showing up, providing, protecting, but quietly we're losing ourselves in the process. And here's the part that matters. Most of us don't even have language for what's happening inside of us, and that's okay. You know, we don't have to have that language. We just know something feels off. This show is about giving words to that experience without pathologizing it and without watering it down. I want to tell you why I built this. I've spent years sitting across from men and women, veterans, first responders, fathers, mothers, husbands, and wives who have been through things most people never see, and thank God for them, because most of us don't have to see these things. And again, I hear the same themes. I don't know how to rest without feeling guilty. I don't talk about this because it won't help anyone, and nothing anyone could say will help me. I'm the strong one. I don't get to fall apart. What's striking in their stories isn't their weakness, it's their endurance. But endurance without release has a cost. And no one really teaches us how to carry fear, grief, anger, or responsibility in a way that doesn't hollow us out over time. So what happens instead? We suppress, we distract, we grind, we numb, we isolate. Not because we're broken, but because we've adapted to survive, but surviving isn't living. Adaptation keeps you alive until it doesn't. The Forge exists to interrupt that cycle, not by telling you what to feel, not by telling you who to be, but by creating a space where pressure is allowed, named, and worked with rather than avoided. This isn't about becoming softer. It's about becoming more solid. Strength isn't emotional numbness. Strength is the ability to stay present under the weight. And that's a skill most of us were never taught. So we can start by taking some of that weight off of our shoulders and just acknowledging that, how was I supposed to know? How was I supposed to just automatically handle this weight and stay present? Well, you weren't. No one taught us these things. So if you're listening to this and something feels familiar, maybe it's that quiet exhaustion, that sense of carrying more than anyone sees. There's nothing wrong with you, all right? You're responding exactly how someone would when they've been strong for too long without support. This isn't about tearing your life apart. This isn't about laying down on my proverbial Freud couch and unpacking your whole childhood. It can be, but that's not what we're here for. It's about learning how to stand inside it without disappearing. Let that sit for a moment. How many times do we just run before we ever get a chance to really get to know what it is that we're in? Sometimes I say to some of my people that I work with that, to control a thing is to get to know a thing. And how do we get to know things when we're just running all the time? When we're just operating on borrowed time and energy and emotional energy that we don't have? We don't, right? We don't. Every episode of The Forge includes a sample ritual. And this ritual is very simple because words matter, but actions anchor them. So I'll ask the same question here that I'll ask every guest who comes into this place. What are you building right now that you refuse to abandon? Now, as you think about that, I know you're not physically here in the studio with me, and that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, you are. This ritual is about action. In front of me, I've located a very, very old column made of wood. You can see the hand-hewn marks on it where some human being, at least over 100 years ago, probably spent hours creating this thing out of a round log from a tree. It's oak. Probably took a long time, a lot of intention, a lot of whittling away, a lot of carving away, just to create something that is designed to carry weight. Now, unlike you, this beam has served its purpose. It's no longer being used for what it was intended to be used for. Now it's a symbol. Every single person that comes through the studio is going to take part in this ritual. I have a few spikes in front of me. They're made of steel, super hard, forged in fire. Again, to help make connections, to help carry the weight. And as I ask everybody that question, what are you building right now that you refuse to abandon? We're going to hammer one of those spikes right into that mighty oak beam. And over time, I hope to see this beam just covered in spikes as a reminder that we're all building something right now. and we all have something that we refuse to abandon. For me, it's this space and the people who find it when they need it most. I didn't always have a space. My space was in my mind. My space was in my body. I cut myself off from the world because inside felt safe. And it was safe until it wasn't. And if we go inside of ourselves to run away, where do we go when we start feeling like we need to run away from ourselves? That feels paralyzing. That feels trapping. Yeah, we all are mammals, but we've been given a pretty huge gift, a gift of feeling stuff. And that's not sissy. Feeling stuff is cool. You know, when we talk about depression, a lot of people who've never experienced depression, you know, they think, oh, it's sadness, right? It's just over. Can be. Yeah, sure. It absolutely can be. For me, in my depression experience, depression is numbness. It's just being numb. I'm not warm. I'm not cold. I'm just kind of there, floating along, not thinking, not feeling, just stuck. Sadness would have been awesome. At least that would have been a feeling. At least that would have been an emotion, something I could connect with. But because we just carry this weight for so long, you know, it becomes a choice to not really acknowledge it anymore. If I ignore it, then I don't feel it. And then I just get really good at not feeling things. Folks, if you're enjoying the content so far, keep it locked. Coming very, very soon. It's still in the works, not too much longer to have to wait. The Warrior's Manual is a manual that is being created for you, for me, a tool that sort of lines up with this podcast. It is 3 months, a weekly manual for you to get some grounding tools that actually work and function. There's prompts, there's quotes, things to help you forge a path ahead. It's not a self-help book per se. It's not some cheesy book filled with lots of psychobabble worksheets. Just real stuff for real people who are looking to get to know themselves again, who are looking for a little bit of clarity and ways that they can help themselves and put some of this weight down. So coming soon, our website is currently being built as we speak. The Warrior's Manual will be on Amazon. There's going to be hard copies. It'll be available right through our website. We also have a digital copy. So for me personally, I love the hard copy. There's something about putting pen to paper that really is just very grounding. But for those of you, we have a digital copy that's going to be available. You can pull that right up on your phone, right up on your iPad, on your computer, and you can actually work through it in that sense too. So keep it locked. Definitely we'll have more information to come on the Warrior's Manual. Thanks so much. You don't have to have everything figured out to begin this work. You just need to stay present long enough to stop abandoning yourself. We'll take the rest of this one conversation at a time. This is The Forge, and I am so glad you're here. For some people, you may lock into this and you may latch on to every single word that's said, and that is awesome. I hope you do. But for others, you know, you may put this podcast on and fall asleep to it, and hey, you know what? That is also good for me too. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Tools are designed to be used the way that you need to use them, not in a way that someone expects you to use them. I have no expectations for you, no pressure. The world's filled with enough pressure. I'd say if you sat for 5-10 minutes, you could probably come up with a war and peace list of things in your life that bring you pressure. This doesn't have to be one of them. I think sometimes engaging in something, engaging in a tool that helps us, to accept that tool as help, it's hard to do sometimes because it feels shameful to think that we have arrived to a point where we need help, especially for my veterans and first responders out there whose job it is to just be the help, be the tool. Well, that's a really awesome sentiment. But this can be a place that is for you. When I first started working with veterans and first responders, oftentimes at the end of our sessions, I wanted to tell them thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to so graciously serve you, because you've served me when you didn't even know who I was. You didn't even know I existed. And you were out there serving me in so many different ways, protecting me, carrying my weight for me sometimes. Let this place carry some weight for you. I don't pretend to know all the answers. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of them myself. The goal is not perfection here. It's just movement. That's it. No pressure to activate immediately. Just learn, experiment with ourselves, figure out what works, figure out what doesn't work. I come from a family that was very rooted in first responder culture. My father was a firefighter, and seeing him show up day in, day out. As a kid, the things that I latch on to the most is some of those memories of hearing a scanner go off in the middle of the night and sharing that adrenaline rush, waking up in the middle of the night, seeing him rush out the door, and not being able to fall back asleep because thinking about him, worrying about him, and thinking about the people that he was fully committed to sacrificing himself to save, to help. And there's nothing quite like that smell after he got back home. The smell of, what's smoke? It's the smell of people's lives, their memories, gone down the drain in a matter of minutes. And hearing him in the bathroom, coughing up his lungs. That's a weight. I carried some of that weight with him, even if I couldn't carry it for him. That's the stuff that people don't always see. Back in 2019, my father finally succumbed to a lot of his mental health issues, a lot of trauma, not just from being a fireman, but from life itself. That was one of those moments where his passing, I felt like I was reborn. Things in the world, all of a sudden, that were so important to me just didn't quite seem relevant anymore. And that made me really sad. My life was kind of being set up for something much bigger than I could have realized at the time. But it was setting me up to also be self-sacrificing and learning how to carry that weight for other people and carrying that weight for myself, but doing it correctly. And I'm still figuring it out, everybody. I'm still figuring it out. So this marks really the first inaugural episode of The Forge. This is something that I've been thinking about for many, many years. I was planning it. I was thinking. I was going through ideas back and forth. And finally, I just said, to hell with it. Let's just start doing this thing and see where it goes. Some things that you can expect on The Forge, again, is honest conversation rooted in reality, not somebody telling you who you are, what you should feel. None of that. None of that. I hate that. That doesn't work for me. Can't imagine that would work for many people. Occasionally we'll trickle in some guests on the show. People that I have curated that I feel like mean something in this world. Their voice means something in this world. Maybe I should say that. That seems more accurate. Their voice means something in this world, perhaps to other people. Some of them professionals, sure. Some of them highly accredited people that have a lot of training in doing what they do. But the most important part is that they are deeply human beings, and to have a conversation with them about maybe their own struggles, and what kind of meaning they cultivated in those struggles. How did those struggles help them form their self-concept? How did it help them form their identity? Another thing I often tell people, my people in sessions sometimes is, I'm not a big homework person. I'm not. If I ever suggest anything on this show, the only expectation I have is that maybe you might just try to indulge it a little bit. Chances are it's something that I've tried to do myself and I felt that it was beneficial, or I've heard from other people that it was beneficial in their lives. But make no mistake about it, just because it works for 99 people out of 100, if you're that one person it doesn't work for, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. That just means that you are who you are. And I tell people, hey, give it a shot, see what you think. And if it sucks, come back and tell me it sucks. We'll find something else. I'm never expecting everybody to find the same tools that work for everybody else. Life isn't that way. I'm also open to conversations. Maybe things that's worked for you in your life and maybe you just want to share. Drop me a line. Let me know what you're talking about. Let me know what's important to you. I want to know what's important to you. That's why I'm doing this. I miss those days of connection to humans. We don't have that a lot anymore, especially in our society. It really sucks sometimes that the only way to really connect with people, to carve out a platform for yourself is through the internet, and it's through social media. And again, those things are tools. They're not ways to live and exist. I grew up in the 80s, and I guess you could consider my childhood in the 90s, right? So it was, I know what the world is like without the internet, without cell phones, and without having to maintain a constant digital footprint and connection. And I know what it's like to live with it. I find myself kind of feeling bad for people who don't really know what it's like to have a best friend. And really the only way you can talk to them is face to face, over the phone, see them at school, see them at work. And I'm not putting down anybody that is of that generation where that was built into your life. And I get that. It's built into a lot of people's lives. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's just another thing to keep the noise going. It's a tool that just kind of helps us keep distracting ourselves from the pressure that we're feeling. And that's okay. There's a time and a place for some of those tools. Believe me, I know that. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for joining me on this first episode of the Forge podcast. This is going to be a big one. This is going to be huge, right? This is going to hopefully be something so different. I hope it's something so different that you find out there. So I'm going to ask you the question again, something to ponder on, something to think deeply about. Maybe if you're a journal person, you can write it in your journal. Maybe if you're following along using the Warrior's Manual, again, as a tool, as a companion to this podcast, you can jot it in there somewhere. But the question is, what are you building right now that you refuse to abandon? What are you building right now that you refuse to abandon? Again, you don't need to have everything figured out to begin this. You just need to stay here long enough to stop abandoning yourself. We'll take this one breath at a time, one conversation at a time, and hopefully cultivate some clarity, some understanding about what true mental health work looks like, and maybe what it doesn't look like. Thanks for stopping by the Forge. Again, I'm really glad you're here. Social media isn't a replacement for therapy, and while I am a therapist, I am not your therapist. Please reach out to your local resources or call 988 if you are in crisis. This is educational content only, not therapy or a replacement for it. Rather, a little education for you along your way, along the journey.